Hey everyone, this is John Dickinson and welcome back to another Blender modeling tutorial. This is tutorial 7 in this How to Model in Blender series. And this week we're going to do something a little different. This is a cosmetic tube. It's pretty simple and it's all quads. So why don't we just dive straight in by creating a new document. Now you'll find the reference images in the description. So hitting tilde, I'm going to go to front view and grab the front reference image. This is the example I modeled this week. Alt G just to center that. And we're going to go to right view and drag in the right one. Alt G. Select both of them. Just come back to front view and we'll just move these up on the Z. Just make things a little easier having them positioned about there. Come over to the data properties. I like to turn off perspective, opacity at 0.5, and just select the other one, perspective off, and opacity at 0.5. Okay, we also want to lock these, so let's just turn on selectability and just deselect that. I'm not going to bother naming them. Okay, quick save. I'm going to just name this number 3. All right, so we'll start off with a cylinder, Shift A, cylinder, and I'm going to say this again, I've key mapped this dialog box to Control tilde, so I can bring it up anywhere my cursor is. A few people have been asking me about that. I did mention how I did that in a previous tutorial. I think it was the hex nut tutorial. I just find it easier to have that dialog box where my cursor is. Okay, so 32.56. We'll see if I can create this exactly as I created it before. And a depth of 0.68. That should be about right. Now we're going to leave the cap fill type as Engon. We'll sort that out in a moment. Okay, Alt C, just to go into X-ray mode. So it's a little bit tall. Going to tab into edit mode. And just bring this one up. That'll do. Okay, just select this loop in edge mode. Just going to hide the grid. Control B. And roll the mouse wheel. Now we want 3 loops. Just want to bring that up to match that curvature. I reckon about there is good. So we're trying to get them as close to square as possible. All right. Control R, roll the mouse wheel, and we'll put 3 loops in here. 3 for face mode. Now I don't want to select all the way through, but I want to select from this face down to this face. Just Alt Z. That's there. Shift Control there. That'll pick the shortest path. We're going to inset the faces. Just a little, something like that. And let's put this into a mirror modifier. And that'll be on the X. Okay, so now we want to round this out a little bit. So I'll just hit K for the knife. This will make it a little bit easier to slide these verts out. E, spacebar. Select this one, GG, and just pull that one down a bit. Want to grab this one, move it down. I'm going to round the top out. Bring this one in a bit more. Something like that. So we can select this one now, Control X. Come down to the bottom one. GG, this isn't quite as rounded, this one. And we're going to bring this one down. Now be careful, you don't want to bring it down on the Z because you can see it's actually slanted, so we want to use GG to slide that. Like that. Maybe bring this one a bit more. Go Alt C. We can actually see it there as well. We might need to bring this one down a little. GG. Could probably just grab these ones and just pull them down a bit. And just a few minor adjustments. Okay, good. So now we're going to apply the mirror. Face mode. Select these ones. Actually, we just need to, sorry, Control X that one. Face mode. I to inset. About there. Alt S, just to move that back on the normals. Looks about right. And you might like this curvature here. You might prefer just to have this curvature. I like to have mine slightly concave. And we might be able to actually go in and add that modifier back in. Mirror, X, and might just save a little bit of time. Now we want to flatten these out. So N, using Loop Tools, under Edit. Remember, Loop Tools is free and it ships with Blender. Just turn it on your preferences and we'll flatten like that. Now we'll move this back like that. So keeping this reasonably low poly makes this kind of adjustment fairly straightforward. May want to grab this edge here, bring that in slightly. Let's go ahead now and just drop this into a sub D. And we'll just right click and shade smooth. Just make sure that auto smooth is turned on. And I'll just deselect that one so we don't have to see it in edit mode. You can see it's actually not bad. Looks reasonably good. We'll just bring that up to 2. Now while you're in object mode, you can just press Control 1, 2, 3 and so on. So 1 gives me a viewport level of 1, 2, 3 and so on. And 0 will give you a viewport level of 0. I'm going to bring that up to 2. While we're at it, what we'll do is we'll just get rid of that and we'll just inset that a little bit. Maybe once more. And then we'll extrude on the Z. Delete that face. This will save us doing it later. Maybe just GG this in here. Control R just to add another loop in there, just to tighten that up. And we could probably just Control B and just put 1 in here. Hold down P. Got that at the right size. Hold down P and just drag to the right. Okay, just saves doing that later. Now just select this loop here, Control B, and we'll make that fairly tight. This looks good if it's nice and sharp. Tab, there we go. So that looks pretty good. We didn't have to do too much on the inside here, just flatten that out a bit, move a couple of edges back. I think that looks pretty good. Is there any pinching in there? Seems to be pretty good. So always checking around the model, just being sure that you haven't moved verts on their normals. All right, so we've got this humongous engon down the bottom here, so let's sort that out. First of all, actually just get rid of this one here, Control X, I to inset, and again, Maybe once more. X to delete that face. 2. And I've got grid fill in my quick favorites. So grid fill. Now, we've still got it in the mirror modifier. So I'm just going to undo that and just come over and apply that first. Try that again. Q, grid fill. Okay. And just line that up with the offset like that. Okay. Control plus on the keypad just to select a few extra loops. Now I want to relax this a bit. So let's use sculpt mode for that. Come up to sculpt mode. And from face sets, choose face set from edit mode selection. And that'll colorize that. Choose the slide relax brush. And importantly, come up to the brush drop down. And under auto masking, make sure that face sets is checked. Because we don't want to loosen up the rest of the model. F to change the size of the brush. Hold down Shift. And you can see if I move outside that selection, we're not messing up the rest of the model. I'll quickly show you what happens if you don't choose that. Just turn that off. You'll start loosening up this, which is a big problem. So just make sure that face sets is checked. Hold down Shift and relax those faces. Nice. Okay, we'll come back to edit mode and front view. Alt C. Now we're going to put in this cut through here. Control R. Just click and drag. S to scale. Z 0 because we want this to be straight. We want a really small bevel on this, so Control B and minuscule, something like that. That's fine. Now E, S to scale, scaling around the 3D cursor, which is what we want. Just bring that in a bit. ES, bring it in a fair bit more. And we're not doing the inside of this. We're not doing the nozzle. This is just going to be as far as we go, just a little extrusion. We may look at how to do the nozzle in a future tutorial. Just do that once more. Okay, so how many loops have we got in there? We just scale that one back in. And just add an extra one in here, Control R. Here you just slide that one up. Control R. I tend to jump between the bevel tool and the loop cut tool depending on what I'm doing. Okay, Control R. Put another one in there. And let's see, do I want to put one in there yet? Yeah, we'll put one in here as well. Hopefully that's going to be narrow enough. Tab. Okay, I think that's all right. You may want to inset it even further, but like I said, we're not doing the inside, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so the cap is basically done. Now we're ready to do the tube. We'll come in and select this loop here. Have I got too many loops in there? Let's just check that out. No, it seems okay. Select this loop. Let's come into top view here. E, scale. And we could have put this inset in afterwards. That way we could have just extruded straight up from this loop here. It doesn't really matter. We've already got this in place now. So E, Z, and up to that line. Probably going to scale this out a little bit later anyway, because we're going to dissolve every second loop. So S, X, and we'll scale this out. There. Control R, and we'll add 3 loops. Come into right view. Make sure we can see. Now for this, we probably want to have the sub D surface on to make sure we can view it. So on cage and edit mode. Select that one. Going to use the scale tool for this and just drag this in on the Y. You can see, because we have the sub D surface visible, we can get this dialed in just right. It's good. And this top one in. Got to come in quite a way. And like that. We'll add an extra loop up here as well. Bring that up. Scale that out. Just adding enough loops in there so we can get that shape under subdivision nice and smooth. We'll only start adding in more loops later when the curvature has been established properly. That's looking pretty good. Let's take a look at the top here. Now, you can take a look at any cosmetic tube that you might have around your house, but I've noticed that the ones that I looked at, this was actually quite straight along here. You can see how it comes down to a point, and we're going to fix that up. So what we have to do is just come over and turn this off again. And we need to select, I'm going to go into tweak mode here. We need to select everything except these end two edges on either side. So that and other side. And shift control. Now we're going to use Loop Tools G stretch just to straighten those. Like that. So nice and straight. We may just scale them out a little bit on the Y. Just like that. So how's that looking? All right, so now we need to grab this one. Actually, being very careful to view it under subdivision. So bring this one into there. Being sure to look at it from the front and from the side view. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so I think we're ready to just extrude this final little piece up here. E to extrude, and we're extruding on the Z, so we'll just go straight up like that. Now we're going to put some control loops in there a little bit later, not just yet. That's looking pretty good. So now we're ready to split the tube away from the cap. You can see how we've got pretty good square faces on the cap, and the subdivision level's really good. But here we've got long faces, and I want to create a nice even grid of square faces for this. And you know, I could come in and apply the sub D, and you can see what happens. All we end up with is just tighter long faces, so that's no good. And it also makes this area, this cap area, really tight, and we don't need to do that. So we're going to split the tube off, decrease the vertical loop count, and make a more even grid. So Alt-Z, and we've got to make sure we get the entire thing. What I might do first is come down, turn that off. Just select that loop and that loop, making sure I've got everything I need, and then shift with select box selected and just select all that. P to separate selection. Now we've got a separate object. Now, in order to make nice square faces, we need to remove every other vertical loop. We don't want to remove this central one here, so we'll just grab the one to the left of that and every other loop. And just being really careful to make sure we grab the right ones. Control X to dissolve. So that's simplified the mesh, but kept the overall shape. You can see though that because we've done that, it's not holding the curvature quite as well, and it's making it a little smaller than the cap. So what we'll need to do is to compensate for that. Just come in and select these ones. Make sure we've got that visible. Got to make sure I've got only the right thing selected. This one. And just S to scale, just scale it out a bit. Just like that. Maybe just grab that one, just scale that in a bit like that. Okay. So now we can go ahead and select these three loops. And we've got to be really careful because we don't want to mess up this great curvature that we've created, because it'll be really obvious on something as smooth as this if we start adding lumps and bumps. Before we do that, just want to make sure that this is just the right size. Add a bit more. And we'll grab these two, bring that out a bit like that. Okay, so now we'll grab this one, and this one. Control B to bevel. And we're going to bring this out. And you can see those two loops that aren't selected in the middle area. We want to match the size of the faces that we're creating with the size of those two inner loops. These ones here and here. That's not bad. Let's just quickly check the shape again. Seems to be okay. Hasn't messed it up. Just going to check the shape here, maybe 0.5. All right, that should do it. Okay, so let's add an extra loop at the top. In there. Extra loop at the bottom. In there. And we're just going to even these out a bit. So just going to grab this one. So just going to bring this one down a bit. Let's make that square. And we'll come through and just select all of these rings. And we'll use Loop Tools space just to space those out. So that's pretty even. Tab, just checking everything. We'll come over and just scale that out a little bit. I think we're ready just to come up and finish this top area. And we did straighten these out, as I mentioned, because we need to keep this fairly even along here, but we do need to scale out these loops. Grab this one and this one. And this one. And that one. Just scale these out on the X. Just move them out like that. Yeah, good. I'll probably go in and add our control cuts through here now. So Control B. Just one roll of the mouse wheel. Keep this fairly tight. It's pretty good. See that? Nice. Okay, so now we can close this top up. So let's see. Going to select those ones and shift select those ones. Shift B. Now there's a few ways you could do this. You could go Control R, just put a loop in there. Then you could go to F to fill that 1 GG, and then you have a quad just there. It doesn't really look great. You could put a loop through here just to sharpen it up. That's not bad. Another way we can do this, I'm just going to undo to there, is we could select these two verts, M to merge and merge at last. And that's still a quad there as well, quad and quad. Just do the other side. I think I prefer this way. Merge at last. Control R. Keep that tight. How does that look? It's a little bit wide. So let's do a select box. And we'll scale that in on the X. That's good there. Could be a little bit tighter up here. Bring that up. Obviously, we don't have another loop through here to sharpen that up, because if we did put another loop through there, we'd lose all of our beautiful curvature through there. I think that's pretty reasonable. And that is the way I did the original anyway, so. Let's turn these on again just so we can see it in edit mode. That's pretty good. And this is where, now that we've added these extra loops, we've got to be really careful. So any modifications we make to any of these areas will add lumps and bumps. See, it's not quite sticking to that. It could be a little bit wider in these areas. It's got to be super, super careful. As long as the reference is correct, we should be okay. It's not a huge deal. I may undo this if it has added any bumps to this. It'll be okay. I mean, it's a tube. Generally, these are made of plastic, so there shouldn't really be any lumps and bumps, even if it's empty. All right. It's looking pretty good. Take another quick look down here. We could probably put a bevel in here. Going to select this loop and just scale this in. And we'll put another control loop maybe about there. Select this, Control B, and we want hit P, just bring that in. That should be okay. Let's just have a look at that. I want to sort of round that out a little bit like that. That looks nice. Come up and hide the floor. And why don't we just stick a matte cap on it. Okay, so there you go. One cosmetic tube. Hopefully that's been useful for you. Remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment if you have something that you can offer. But for now, this is John. I'll see you in the next tutorial.